Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Mujib Sarai Sahab, deans, faculty members, and dear students, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. It's not Dr. Sarai who is confused. I'm still struggling to imagine myself outside any university. I've spent 45 years of my life, and I was telling somebody that this is the second job that I started after working for the university and staying there for 45 years. Starting a new job in a new environment, even though I know everybody at CIC, but still it is a huge transformation, and I feel like a 5-year-old who has been pushed into the school by their parents where he actually didn't want to go. So, I'm sure all of us have gone through that feeling of being insecure in an environment, and we feel threatened, and that's the kind of fear, obviously, at this age I'm going through. But then the good side is that I'm still feeling young, being a 5-year-old. And I have fancied computers almost all my life. I started doing programming when I was a second-year student at any university. That was way back in 1980. And at that time, this was something beyond imagination, that a student of civil engineering or a few students of civil engineering had ventured into programming, and at that time there was no standard programming language. A little later that the GW Basic came in, Fortran was also there, but the programmable calculators at that stage, even today, do not support Fortran. So we had programmable calculators at that time. I remember Texas Instrument was the first one that they started developing programmable calculators that used to be a magnetic strip, and whatever little programs that you would write, you have to swap that magnetic strip for recording. And then when I got into my final year, I, along with some of my colleagues, wrote a software for earthquake analysis of certain kind of structures. And at that time, there was no PCs. So we had this gaming computer called Sinclair ZX81, and Sinclair ZX81 didn't have any recording device, so you had to attach a cassette player. And the ordinary cassettes, kids, I don't think you've seen those things, the cassette players and the cassettes, and then you record the programs on a cassette. And then at times it becomes impossible to reload it back over the computer because the tape of the cassette used to stretch a little bit, and then it becomes useless. So that's how we started off. And as Bhavani Saab mentioned, that I still feel computer or the microchip is the second biggest invention of mankind. If anything which has revolutionized the human race after the wheel, it is this teeny microchip. Now just imagine the power that we have and the power that we carry in our pockets in form of a cell phone. I mean, we can get connected to anything, we can talk to each other, we can get whatever information that we want. And then obviously came in the areas of artificial intelligence, and the most scary part of artificial intelligence is the generative idea. Only less than a year ago I was introduced to ChatGPT. Now look at how many generative AI bots which are available, and every other day they are improving in power. And just imagine when they start perpetuating. Right now they are not perpetuating. Right now they are based on the information that we are providing. But just imagine, in the way that technology is developing, the way the computing power is developing, just imagine that these generative, perpetuative AI bots, what miracles that they can do. And just imagine the transformation that is going to take place in the classrooms. We are not ready for these kind of transformation. None of the institutions that I know of, at least in Pakistan, are ready to take us through that transformation where the pedagogy is going to completely change. Where the teaching, learning process will completely change. Now, whether we stop our students or not, they're using these generative AI bots to get the solutions. And they give solutions, and you can write new algorithms, you can write from descriptive assays to solving equations, everything is there. And just imagine a tool like a math lab connected to a generative AI bot. What miracles could it do? Do we really need teachers there? I'm not saying that the teachers will not be there, but the teachers have to be trained in a very different manner. And very soon, people who are not ready to change will become redundant. So I was listening to some of the recommendations while I was dozing off as well, because I'm not used to taking lunch. I have 2 lunches today. So that's why I was dozing off and listening to the recommendations. And none of the recommendation came as a dedicated session of changing and evolving pedagogies in the classrooms. How are we going to teach these young boys and girls who have much more powerful tools in their pockets? I mean, can't we have an immersive technology or an augmented reality where instead of Dr. Bhavani Shankar in Canada, seen through the Zoom, is actually projected here on the stage, and we can see live talking to him as if he's there present. And that's not very far away. I don't know how many of boys and girls have actually seen Star Trek. This very scientific science fiction television series which was started in the 70s, and then I don't know whether it's still going on or not.
Yes.
But they used to beam up. They used to send people from one place to the other into some energy transformation techniques, which now is not very far away, even though we may not be physically transforming people, sending or transporting people from one end to the other end, but the images in form of virtual reality can be transformed, can be sent to other places. So you can actually have a teacher who either doesn't exist, or even that teacher exists, actually lives elsewhere, and you can see that individual standing here and talking about things. So while I was at NED, I started encouraging my colleagues to develop, teaching material in metaverse environment. And then by the time the teaching material in one of the courses was ready for metaverse became obsolete. So that's the kind of pace of technology that the new generation has to face. Thank God, people like me are at the fag end of the career and we don't have to face those challenges. But young boys and girls who are sitting in the back of this hall can imagine how their life is going to be difficult and tough. But otherwise, if they don't keep up with the pace of the technology, they'll be redundant at the age of 25. And none of you would like to do that. So are you ready? And if you're not, please wake up. Nobody is going to come and tell you what needs to be done. You have to use your own imagination. And the idea of having these platforms is actually to give you some kind of sense where the world is going on. It's not about the faculty members showing off their research. It's about exposing you to the end of the technology where it gives you or incentivizes you or gives you an idea how the future is going to look like. And that's what the challenge for you is. When I was growing up and people of my age were growing up, the life was very challenging. But thank God I do not belong to your generation. Otherwise the life would have been far more challenging and far more daunting and far more demanding. And you are the people who are going to replace us sooner than you think. And I'm so grateful to SMIU for having a conference on this very pertinent session. But sir, Dean Saab, I would request you to prepare a dedicated session next year on evolving pedagogies and changing teaching learning processes and what the future is going to be. It could be the theme of the next conference, and even if it's not the theme of the conference, one dedicated session could be on these topics. Encourage these students, ask them to come up and give these ideas. Some of the ideas may be very absurd, but that's what all the life is all about. I remember when I was growing up, the James Bond movies used to have a telephone in the car. That was something, we used to laugh. How can this be possible? A telephone in a car. Everybody's carrying a telephone. The only person who's not carrying a telephone is the person who preferred not to carry a telephone. So, even though this was an absurd idea at that time, but this is actually become a reality. So, I'm so grateful to all of you, sir, especially Dr. Mujib Sharai. I have a very fond memory of this institution. I studied at SM Science College. My father remained principal here for about 30 years, and it was a second home to me. And I love coming back here again and again. And once again, I'm thankful to SMIU, Mehul Sir, all the faculty members for giving me this honor to be the chief guest in this session. And I wish you a very good luck. Thank you, sir.